What if the secret to success isn't IQ or luck, but your ability to read people like a book? This audiobook reveals the hidden art of social intelligence, the skill that shapes influence, connection, and power. Master it, and you'll never see the world the same again. What if I told you the secret to unlocking every door in your personal and professional life isn't raw intelligence, charisma, or even luck, but something far more potent and shockingly underdeveloped? Imagine being able to walk into any room and instinctively know what everyone is feeling, who holds the power, and exactly what to say to spark connection, trust, and influence. Now imagine being able to do that consistently with bosses, partners, strangers, and friends. That skill is called social intelligence, and if you're not actively developing it, you're already falling behind. We live in a world saturated with information, but starving for connection. In an age of AI, automation, and algorithm-driven everything, the one thing that can't be replicated by machines, at least not authentically, is our ability to understand, empathize with, and respond to other human beings. And yet, most of us never learned how to truly read people, interpret subtle social cues, or navigate emotionally charged interactions without guesswork or anxiety. Instead, we fumble through conversations, misread intentions, miss opportunities, and wonder why we feel out of sync in relationships and teams. The truth is, intelligence alone won't get you ahead. Emotional sensitivity is not enough. The real edge, the invisible currency of success, is social intelligence. Social intelligence is not the same as emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is about knowing your own emotions and managing them. It's personal, inward-focused. Social intelligence is something else entirely. It's external. It's about how you perceive, interpret, and respond to others. It's about recognizing the emotions and intentions behind people's words, their silences, their body language. It's the uncanny ability to read a room, to know when to speak and when to listen, when to push and when to pause. Social intelligence is what makes some people magnetic, while others are forgettable. It's why some leaders inspire loyalty and others struggle with disengaged teams. It's why some individuals build powerful networks effortlessly while others remain invisible in the crowd. Here's the twist most people don't realize. Social intelligence isn't fixed. It's not a gift bestowed at birth to a lucky few. It's a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned, trained, and mastered. This audiobook isn't about giving you surface-level tricks or vague feel-good advice. It's a deep dive into the mechanics of social mastery, how to read people with precision, respond with confidence, and leave a lasting impression everywhere you go. You'll learn the unspoken rules that govern conversations, connection, and trust. You'll understand why you sometimes feel invisible, misunderstood, or drained in social situations, and how to turn that around. Chapter 1. The Social Brain. The first step in understanding the power of social intelligence is realizing that human beings are by nature deeply social creatures. Our brains are not just wired to think and reason. They are specifically designed to connect with other people. This is not an abstract idea, but a scientific reality backed by decades of research into neuroscience and psychology. The brain has developed over millennia in ways that allow us to perceive, interpret, and respond to the emotions and actions of others. This complex system of connections is what we call the social brain. Before diving into the mechanics of the social brain, let's first recognize the sheer magnitude of social interactions in our daily lives. Every conversation you have, every interaction with a colleague, family member, or even a stranger on the street requires the brain to constantly process a vast array of signals, facial expressions, tone of voice, body language, and the unspoken nuances that convey meaning far beyond words. Our brain's ability to decode these signals quickly and accurately is a testament to how deeply we are embedded in a social context. Without this ability, our relationships, whether personal or professional, would be incredibly challenging. The social brain operates through several key regions that work in harmony to process social information. The prefrontal cortex, often called the brain's CEO, is responsible for executive functions like decision-making, planning, and social reasoning. It helps us understand complex social situations, predict how others might behave, and choose appropriate responses. This region is what allows us to think before we speak, to consider the consequences of our actions on others, and to navigate the intricate dance of social interaction. The mirror neuron system is another crucial component of the social brain. These specialized neurons fire both when we perform an action and when we observe others performing the same action. They are the biological basis for empathy, allowing us to literally feel what others are experiencing. When you see someone smile, your mirror neurons activate as if you were smiling yourself, creating an automatic, emotional connection. This system is what makes it possible for us to understand others' intentions, emotions, and actions without them having to explicitly tell us what they're thinking or feeling. The limbic system, particularly the amygdala, plays a vital role in processing emotions and social threats. It quickly assesses whether someone is friend or foe, safe or dangerous, and triggers appropriate emotional responses. This ancient part of our brain operates below the level of conscious awareness, making split-second judgments that influence how we feel about and respond to others. Understanding how the amygdala works helps explain why first impressions are so powerful and why some people make us feel instantly comfortable while others trigger our defenses. The temporal parietal junction is responsible for theory of mind, the ability to understand that others have thoughts, beliefs, and desires different from our own. This region allows us to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, to predict their behavior based on their mental state, and to understand that their perspective might be completely different from ours. Without a functioning theory of mind, we would be unable to engage in complex social interactions or understand the motivations behind others' actions. The anterior cingulate cortex helps us process social pain and empathy. When we see someone else in distress, this region activates, allowing us to feel their pain as if it were our own. This is why watching someone get hurt can make us wince, or why seeing someone cry can bring tears to our own eyes. This emotional resonance is fundamental to building strong social bonds and responding appropriately to others' needs. These brain regions don't work in isolation. They form an intricate network that processes social information continuously, often without our conscious awareness. This is why you can sometimes sense that something is off in a conversation, even when the words being spoken seem perfectly normal. Your social brain is picking up on subtle cues that your conscious mind hasn't yet identified. The development of the social brain begins in infancy and continues throughout our lives. Babies are born with an innate preference for faces and voices, and they quickly learn to read their caregivers' emotions and respond accordingly. As we grow, our social brain becomes increasingly sophisticated, allowing us to navigate more complex social situations and relationships. However, this development is not automatic. It requires practice, feedback, and conscious effort to reach its full potential. Understanding how the social brain works gives us insight into why some people seem naturally gifted at reading others while others struggle with social interactions. It also reveals that social intelligence is not fixed. Just as we can strengthen our muscles through exercise, we can enhance our social brain through deliberate practice and training. The plasticity of the brain means that we can literally rewire our neural networks to become more socially intelligent, regardless of our starting point. Chapter 2. Understanding empathy at a deeper level. Empathy is often described as the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. But this simple definition barely scratches the surface of what empathy truly entails. Empathy is the cornerstone of social intelligence, the bridge that connects us to others on an emotional level. It's what allows us to move beyond our own perspective and truly understand the inner world of another person. Without empathy, our social interactions would be mechanical, transactional, and ultimately unfulfilling. There are actually two distinct types of empathy: cognitive empathy and emotional empathy. Cognitive empathy is the intellectual understanding of another person's emotional state. It's the ability to recognize and comprehend what someone else is feeling without necessarily feeling it yourself. This type of empathy involves the prefrontal cortex and requires conscious thought and analysis. When you see someone crying and understand that they are sad, you're using cognitive empathy. Emotional empathy, on the other hand, is the automatic mirroring of another person's emotional state. This is when you actually feel what the other person is feeling, as if their emotions were contagious. This type of empathy is driven by the mirror neuron system and the limbic brain, operating below the level of conscious awareness. When you see someone in pain and feel a pang of distress yourself, you're experiencing emotional empathy. Both types of empathy are crucial for social intelligence, but they serve different purposes. Cognitive empathy allows us to understand others' perspectives and respond appropriately, even in situations where their emotions might be different from our own. Emotional empathy creates the deep emotional bonds that form the foundation of meaningful relationships. The most socially intelligent people have developed both types of empathy and know when to use each one. The neuroscience of empathy reveals just how deeply wired we are for connection. The insula, a region deep within the brain, plays a crucial role in emotional empathy. It processes both our own emotions and the emotions we observe in others, creating a shared emotional experience. When the insula is damaged, people lose much of their ability to empathize, demonstrating just how essential this brain region is for social connection. The anterior cingulate cortex works alongside the insula to process the emotional significance of what we observe in others. This region is particularly active when we witness someone else's pain or distress, creating the uncomfortable feeling that motivates us to help. This is why watching someone get hurt can be almost as distressing as being hurt ourselves. Mirror neurons, discovered in the 1990s, revolutionized our understanding of empathy. These remarkable cells fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else performing the same action. They create an automatic simulation of others' actions and emotions in our own neural networks. This is why yawning is contagious, why we automatically mimic others' facial expressions, and why we can sense others' emotions without them saying a word. However, empathy is not just about feeling what others feel. True empathy requires the ability to maintain emotional boundaries while still connecting with others. This is where the prefrontal cortex comes in, providing the cognitive control needed to experience empathy without being overwhelmed by it. Highly empathetic people learn to feel with others while still maintaining their own emotional equilibrium. Developing empathy requires practice and intentionality. One of the most effective ways to build empathy is through active listening. This means giving your full attention to another person, not just hearing their words, but also paying attention to their tone of voice, body language, and the emotions underlying their communication. Active listening involves suspending your own agenda and truly focusing on understanding the other person's experience. Perspective taking is another powerful tool for building empathy. This involves consciously trying to see the world through another person's eyes, considering their background, experiences, and current situation. When someone behaves in a way that seems unreasonable or difficult, asking yourself, what might be driving this behavior, can help you develop a more empathetic understanding of their actions. Reading fiction has been shown to increase empathy by allowing us to experience the world through the eyes of diverse characters. When we read about characters facing challenges different from our own, our brains simulate their experiences, building our capacity for understanding others. This is why well-read people often display higher levels of social intelligence. Mindfulness meditation can also enhance empathy by increasing our awareness of our own emotions and those of others. When we're more attuned to our own emotional states, we become better at recognizing similar states in others. Mindfulness also helps us respond rather than react, giving us the space to choose empathetic responses even in challenging situations. It's important to understand that empathy can be both a strength and a vulnerability. Highly empathetic people can sometimes become overwhelmed by others' emotions, leading to emotional burnout or decision-making based on others' feelings rather than logic. This is why developing emotional boundaries is crucial. True empathy involves caring deeply while still maintaining the ability to think clearly and act in everyone's best interest. Empathy also has cultural dimensions that are often overlooked. Different cultures express and interpret emotions differently, and what seems like appropriate empathetic behavior in one culture might be misunderstood in another. Developing cultural empathy means learning to understand and respond to emotions within their cultural context, recognizing that emotional expression is shaped by cultural norms and expectations. The absence of empathy, sometimes called empathy deficit, can have serious consequences for social relationships and success. People who struggle with empathy often find themselves isolated, misunderstood, or unable to build meaningful connections. They may come across as cold, insensitive, or self-centered, even when that's not their intention. Understanding empathy deficits can help us recognize when someone's lack of empathetic response is due to neurological differences rather than malicious intent. Chapter 3. The Hidden Language of Nonverbal Communication. While we often focus on the words people speak, research reveals that up to 93% of communication is nonverbal. This staggering statistic means that the vast majority of what we communicate to others happens without us ever opening our mouths. Nonverbal communication includes facial expressions, body language, posture, tone of voice, eye contact, and even the subtle changes in our behavior that can convey powerful messages, often without us being aware of it. The human brain is exquisitely tuned to pick up on these nonverbal signals. From the tilt of a head to the way a person stands, our brains are constantly processing a flood of nonverbal cues and making split-second judgments about what they mean. This processing happens largely below the level of conscious awareness, which is why we can sometimes sense that something is off about a person or situation without being able to explain exactly why. Facial expressions are perhaps the most obvious form of nonverbal communication. The human face has over 40 muscles that can create thousands of different expressions, many of which happen in micro-expressions that last less than a quarter of a second. These brief flashes of emotion can reveal what someone is truly feeling, even when they're trying to hide it. The ability to read these micro-expressions is a crucial skill for anyone wanting to develop superior social intelligence. The basic emotions, happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, and disgust, are universally expressed through facial expressions across all cultures. However, the intensity, duration, and context of these expressions can vary significantly. A genuine smile, known as a Duchenne smile, involves not just the mouth but also the muscles around the eyes, creating crow's feet and raised cheeks. A fake smile typically only involves the mouth muscles and can be spotted by the absence of eye involvement. Eye contact is another powerful form of nonverbal communication. The eyes are often called the windows to the soul, and for good reason. Direct eye contact can convey confidence, honesty, and interest, while avoiding eye contact might suggest discomfort, deception, or disinterest. However, the interpretation of eye contact varies significantly across cultures. In some cultures, direct eye contact with authority figures is considered disrespectful, while in others, it's expected as a sign of honesty and engagement. The pupils of our eyes also communicate unconsciously. When we're interested or aroused, our pupils dilate. When we're experiencing negative emotions or discomfort, they constrict. Skilled readers of nonverbal communication pay attention to these subtle changes, which can provide insight into someone's true emotional state. Body language encompasses the way we position and move our bodies in space. An open posture with uncrossed arms and legs, shoulders back, and body facing the other person typically signals openness, confidence, and receptivity. A closed posture with crossed arms, hunched shoulders, or body turned away can indicate defensiveness, discomfort, or disagreement. However, it's crucial to consider context when interpreting body language. Someone might cross their arms because they're cold, not because they're being defensive. The concept of personal space, or proxemics, is another important aspect of nonverbal communication. Everyone has invisible boundaries around their body, and violating these boundaries can create discomfort or aggression. The appropriate distance varies by relationship and culture. Intimate distance is reserved for very close relationships, personal distance for friends and family, social distance for acquaintances and colleagues, and public distance for formal interactions. Gestures add another layer to nonverbal communication. Some gestures are conscious and deliberate, like pointing or waving, while others are unconscious expressions of our internal state. Fidgeting, touching one's face, or playing with objects can indicate nervousness or discomfort. Mirroring someone else's gestures can signal rapport and agreement, while contradictory gestures might suggest disagreement or tension. Vocal tonality, while technically involving sound, is considered part of nonverbal communication because it's about how something is said rather than what is said. The same words can convey completely different meanings depending on tone, volume, pace, and inflection. A simple fine can express agreement, frustration, sarcasm, or resignation, depending on how it's delivered. Skilled communicators pay as much attention to how someone speaks as to what they say. Posture communicates power, confidence, and status. Research by social psychologist Amy Cuddy has shown that adopting confident postures can actually change our hormone levels, increasing testosterone and decreasing cortisol. This means that not only does our posture communicate to others, but it also affects how we feel about ourselves. Standing tall with shoulders back and taking up space signals confidence and authority, while slouching or making oneself small can signal insecurity or submission. The timing and rhythm of nonverbal cues also carry meaning. When verbal and nonverbal messages are synchronized, communication feels natural and trustworthy. When there's a mismatch, such as someone saying they're happy while their facial expression shows sadness, it creates cognitive dissonance and can signal deception or internal conflict. Cultural differences in nonverbal communication can lead to significant misunderstandings. What's considered polite eye contact in one culture might be seen as aggressive staring in another. A gesture that's friendly in one country might be offensive in another. Developing cultural competence in nonverbal communication is essential for anyone working in diverse environments or international contexts. Learning to read nonverbal communication accurately requires practice and calibration. This means establishing a baseline for how someone normally behaves before trying to interpret deviations from that baseline. Someone who naturally speaks quickly and gestures frequently shouldn't be interpreted the same way as someone who's normally calm and still. Changes from someone's normal behavior are often more meaningful than their absolute behavior. The ability to control and consciously use nonverbal communication is equally important as reading it in others. This doesn't mean being fake or manipulative, but rather ensuring that your nonverbal signals align with your intended message. Being aware of your own facial expressions, posture, and tone of voice allows you to communicate more effectively and build stronger rapport with others. Chapter 4. Mastering the Art of Emotional Intelligence. Emotional intelligence represents the foundation upon which all other forms of social intelligence are built. It encompasses our ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions, while simultaneously being attuned to the emotions of others. Unlike IQ, which remains relatively fixed throughout our lives, emotional intelligence can be developed and enhanced with practice and awareness. This malleability makes it one of the most valuable skills we can cultivate for both personal and professional success. The framework of emotional intelligence consists of 4 core domains: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. Self-awareness is the foundation of emotional intelligence. It involves understanding your own emotions as they occur, recognizing your emotional triggers, and being aware of how your emotions affect your thoughts and behavior. People with high self-awareness can identify their emotional states in real time and understand the underlying causes of their feelings. Self-management builds upon self-awareness and involves the ability to regulate your emotions effectively. This doesn't mean suppressing or ignoring your emotions, but rather channeling them in productive ways. Emotionally intelligent people can remain calm under pressure, adapt to changing circumstances, and respond rather than react to challenging situations. They understand that while they cannot always control what happens to them, they can control how they respond. Social awareness is the ability to accurately read and understand the emotions of others. This involves picking up on verbal and nonverbal cues, understanding the emotional climate of a group or organization, and being sensitive to the cultural and social factors that influence how emotions are expressed and interpreted. Socially aware individuals can sense when someone is upset, even when they're trying to hide it, and they can read the mood of a room as soon as they walk in. Relationship management represents the culmination of emotional intelligence. It's the ability to use your understanding of emotions, both your own and others, to build stronger relationships, resolve conflicts, and influence others in positive ways. This involves skills like active listening, empathetic responding, constructive feedback, and collaborative problem-solving. The neuroscience behind emotional intelligence reveals how our brains process and regulate emotions. The amygdala, often called the brain's alarm system, quickly assesses emotional significance and triggers our fight-or-flight response. The prefrontal cortex, our brain's executive center, is responsible for emotional regulation and rational thinking. In emotionally intelligent people, there's strong communication between these two regions, allowing for emotional awareness without being overwhelmed by emotional reactions. Developing self-awareness requires creating space between stimulus and response. This can be achieved through mindfulness practices that help you observe your thoughts and emotions without immediately acting on them. Regular self-reflection, journaling, and seeking feedback from others can also enhance self-awareness. The goal is to become an objective observer of your own emotional processes, understanding your patterns and triggers without judgment. Self-management strategies include cognitive reappraisal, which involves changing how you think about a situation to change how you feel about it. Instead of seeing a challenging project as overwhelming, you might reframe it as an opportunity to develop new skills. Deep breathing exercises, progressive muscle relaxation, and other stress management techniques can help regulate emotional responses in the moment. Building social awareness requires shifting your focus from internal to external. This means paying attention to others' facial expressions, body language, tone of voice, and choice of words. It also involves understanding the context that might be influencing their emotions. Someone who seems irritable might be dealing with stress at home, facing a deadline, or experiencing health issues. Developing empathy and perspective-taking abilities are crucial for enhancing social awareness. Relationship management skills include active listening, which goes beyond just hearing words to understanding the emotions and needs behind them. It involves asking clarifying questions, reflecting back what you've heard, and validating others' feelings. Conflict resolution skills are also essential, including the ability to remain calm during disagreements, find common ground, and work toward mutually beneficial solutions. Emotional contagion is another important concept in emotional intelligence. Emotions are literally contagious. We unconsciously mimic the facial expressions, postures, and vocal tones of others, which leads us to experience similar emotions. This is why one person's bad mood can affect an entire team, and why positive leaders can lift the spirits of their organizations. Understanding emotional contagion allows you to be more intentional about the emotional climate you create around you. The relationship between emotional intelligence and leadership is particularly strong. Leaders with high emotional intelligence create more positive work environments, have better relationships with their teams, and achieve superior results. They understand that people don't just follow logic. They follow emotions. They know how to inspire, motivate, and connect with others on an emotional level while still maintaining professional boundaries and making difficult decisions when necessary. Developing emotional intelligence requires practice in real-world situations. Start by paying attention to your emotional responses throughout the day. Notice what triggers strong emotions and how those emotions affect your thinking and behavior. Practice pausing before responding to emotional situations, giving yourself time to choose your response rather than simply reacting. Work on reading others' emotions more accurately by paying attention to their nonverbal cues and asking clarifying questions when you're unsure about how they're feeling. Emotional intelligence also involves understanding the difference between empathy and sympathy. Empathy involves feeling with someone while maintaining emotional boundaries. Sympathy involves feeling sorry for someone, but can create distance rather than connection. Emotionally intelligent people can empathize without taking on others' emotions as their own, allowing them to be supportive without becoming emotionally drained. The cultural dimensions of emotional intelligence cannot be ignored. Different cultures have different norms around emotional expression, and what's considered emotionally intelligent behavior in one culture might be misunderstood in another. Developing cultural emotional intelligence involves understanding these differences and adapting your approach accordingly while staying true to your authentic self. Chapter 5: The Science of Communication and Connection. Communication is far more complex than the simple exchange of information. At its core, communication is about creating connection, building understanding, and influencing behavior. The science of communication reveals that every interaction involves multiple layers of meaning, conscious and unconscious processes, and intricate psychological dynamics that can either bring people together or drive them apart. The communication process involves several key components: the sender, the message, the medium, the receiver, and the feedback loop. However, this simple model doesn't capture the complexity of real-world communication. Each person brings their own experiences, biases, cultural background, and emotional state to every interaction. The same message can be interpreted completely differently by different people, depending on these factors. One of the most important discoveries in communication science is that people don't just process information, they construct meaning. This means that the meaning of a message isn't just contained in the words themselves, but is created through the interaction between the sender's intent, the message itself, and the receiver's interpretation. This is why miscommunication is so common and why effective communicators take responsibility for ensuring their message is understood as intended. The concept of frames plays a crucial role in communication. A frame is the context or perspective through which information is presented and interpreted. The same set of facts can be framed in completely different ways, leading to vastly different emotional and behavioral responses. For example, describing a medical procedure as having a 90% success rate creates a very different emotional response than describing it as having a 10% failure rate. Even though both statements are mathematically identical, active listening is perhaps the most undervalued communication skill. Most people think they're good listeners, but research shows that we typically only retain about 25% of what we hear. True active listening involves giving your full attention to the speaker, suspending judgment, asking clarifying questions, and reflecting back what you've heard to ensure understanding. It's about listening to understand, not to respond. The neuroscience of communication reveals why certain messages are more persuasive than others. Our brains are wired to pay attention to stories, emotions, and social proof. Messages that tap into these evolutionary programming are more likely to be remembered and acted upon. This is why storytelling is such a powerful communication tool. It engages multiple areas of the brain simultaneously, creating a more memorable and impactful experience. Rapport is the foundation of effective communication. When people are in rapport, they feel connected, understood, and comfortable with each other. Rapport can be built through various techniques, including mirroring body language, matching vocal tone and pace, finding common ground, and showing genuine interest in the other person. However, building rapport must be authentic. People can sense when someone is being manipulative or fake. The primacy and recency effects show that people tend to remember the beginning and end of communications most clearly, while the middle tends to fade from memory. This has important implications for how we structure our messages. Key points should be placed at the beginning or end of a communication for maximum impact, while supporting details can be placed in the middle. Cognitive biases significantly impact how we process and respond to communication. Confirmation bias leads us to pay more attention to information that confirms our existing beliefs while ignoring contradictory evidence. The availability heuristic makes us overweight information that comes to mind easily. Understanding these biases allows us to communicate more effectively by anticipating how our messages might be filtered through these mental shortcuts. The role of emotions in communication cannot be overstated. People make decisions emotionally and then justify them rationally. This means that even in supposedly logical environments like business meetings, emotions play a crucial role in determining outcomes. Effective communicators understand this and know how to appeal to both logic and emotion in their messages. Nonviolent communication, developed by Marshall Rosenberg, provides a framework for communicating in ways that build connection rather than defensiveness. This approach involves expressing observations without evaluation, sharing feelings without blame, identifying needs without demands, and making requests without requirements. This framework helps prevent the defensive reactions that often derail difficult conversations. The concept of psychological safety, introduced by Harvard Business School professor Amy Edmondson, is crucial for effective communication in teams and organizations. Psychological safety is the belief that one can speak up, ask questions, and make mistakes without fear of negative consequences. When psychological safety is present, communication flows more freely, leading to better problem-solving, innovation, and performance. Digital communication has introduced new challenges and opportunities for connection. Email, text messages, and social media lack many of the nonverbal cues that make face-to-face communication so rich. This can lead to misunderstandings and reduced empathy. However, digital communication also allows for more thoughtful, deliberate messages and can connect people across geographic boundaries. Understanding how to communicate effectively in digital environments is increasingly important in our connected world. The timing of communication can be just as important as the content. People have natural rhythms and energy cycles that affect their receptivity to different types of messages. Understanding when someone is most likely to be receptive to your communication can significantly improve your effectiveness. This might mean scheduling difficult conversations when both parties are fresh rather than at the end of a long day. Cross-cultural communication requires understanding that communication styles vary significantly across cultures. Some cultures value direct communication, while others prefer indirect approaches. Some cultures emphasize individual achievement, while others focus on group harmony. Understanding these differences and adapting your communication style accordingly is essential for building bridges across cultural divides. The art of asking questions is a crucial communication skill that's often overlooked. The right question at the right time can unlock understanding, build rapport, and guide conversations in productive directions. Open-ended questions encourage elaboration and sharing, while closed-ended questions can help clarify specific points. Powerful questions can help people think differently about their situations and discover new possibilities. Chapter 6. Reading Micro-Expressions and hidden emotions. The human face is capable of producing over 10,000 different expressions, most of which flash across our features in fractions of a second. These micro-expressions, lasting between 1/25th and 1/5th of a second, reveal our true emotions before our conscious mind has a chance to censor them. Learning to read these fleeting facial cues gives you an almost supernatural ability to understand what people are really thinking and feeling, even when they're trying to hide it. Micro-expressions were first discovered by psychologist Paul Ekman, who found that certain facial expressions are universal across all cultures. Whether you're in Tokyo or Timbuktu, happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, disgust, and contempt are expressed through the same facial muscle movements. This universality means that learning to read micro-expressions gives you a skill that works anywhere in the world, transcending language and cultural barriers. The key to reading micro-expressions lies in understanding the specific muscle movements that create each emotion. A genuine smile, known as a Duchenne smile, involves not just the zygomatic major muscle that pulls up the corners of the mouth, but also the orbicularis oculi muscle that creates crow's feet around the eyes. When someone gives you a fake smile, only the mouth muscles are engaged, creating what researchers call a Pan-Am smile, after the airline's flight attendants, who were trained to smile constantly. Fear creates one of the most distinctive micro-expressions. The eyebrows pull together and raise up, creating horizontal wrinkles across the forehead. The upper eyelids raise, exposing more of the white of the eye, while the lower eyelids tense. The lips stretch horizontally, sometimes opening slightly. This expression evolved to help us see potential threats more clearly by widening our field of vision. Anger manifests through lowered and drawn together eyebrows, creating vertical lines between them. The lower eyelid tenses upward, while the upper eyelid may lower slightly, creating an intense stare. The lips can either press together firmly or open with teeth exposed. The nostrils often flare slightly. This expression serves to intimidate potential threats and signal our readiness to fight. Disgust involves the raising of the upper lip, often asymmetrically, and the wrinkling of the nose. The lower eyelids push up slightly, and the eyebrows lower. This expression originally evolved to help us avoid contaminated food, but now extends to moral and social disgust as well. When someone briefly flashes disgust while discussing a person or topic, it reveals their true feelings regardless of their words. Surprise creates raised eyebrows that form curved lines across the forehead. The upper eyelids raise to expose more white, while the jaw drops open. This expression is typically brief and often transitions quickly into another emotion. If someone maintains a surprised expression for too long, it's likely fake, as genuine surprise rarely lasts more than a second. Sadness draws the inner corners of the eyebrows up and together, creating an inverted V shape in the center of the forehead. The corners of the lips pull down, and the lower lip may push up slightly. The upper eyelids often droop. This expression can be subtle and is often the first emotion to leak through when someone is trying to maintain composure. Contempt is the only asymmetrical universal expression. One corner of the mouth raises in a slight smirk or sneer. This expression signals feelings of superiority and disdain. When you see contempt flash across someone's face during a conversation, it indicates they feel superior to you or disagree with what you're saying, even if they're being polite verbally. The challenge with micro-expressions is that they happen so quickly. Most people miss them entirely because they're not trained to look for them. The key is to develop what researchers call facial coding skills. This involves training your attention to focus on the face during conversations and learning to spot the tiny muscular movements that betray true emotions. Baseline behavior is crucial for accurate micro-expression reading. Everyone has their own normal facial expressions and mannerisms. Some people naturally have more animated faces, while others are more stoic. Before you can accurately read someone's micro-expressions, you need to establish what their normal expressions look like. Only then can you spot deviations that might indicate hidden emotions. Context is equally important when interpreting micro-expressions. A flash of anger might indicate frustration with the topic being discussed, or it might be a response to a phone notification they just received. Always consider the situational factors that might be influencing someone's emotional state. The most accurate readings come from observing clusters of expressions over time, rather than making judgments based on single instances. Cultural considerations can complicate micro-expression reading. While the basic expressions are universal, the rules about when and how to display emotions vary significantly across cultures. Some cultures encourage emotional expressiveness, while others value emotional restraint. Understanding these cultural norms helps you interpret micro-expressions more accurately and avoid cultural misunderstandings. Practicing micro-expression recognition requires deliberate effort. Start by watching people in everyday situations and trying to spot brief emotional flashes. Pay particular attention to moments when someone's facial expression doesn't match their words, or when you sense incongruence between verbal and nonverbal messages. Online training programs and apps can help you develop these skills systematically. The ethical implications of reading micro-expressions cannot be ignored. This skill gives you access to information that people might prefer to keep private. It's important to use this ability responsibly, with empathy and respect for others' privacy. The goal should be to understand others better, so you can respond more appropriately, not to manipulate or take advantage of them. Combining micro-expression reading with other social intelligence skills creates a powerful toolkit for understanding human behavior. When you can read someone's true emotions, you can adjust your communication style, provide appropriate support, or navigate difficult conversations more effectively. This skill is particularly valuable in leadership positions, therapeutic relationships, and high-stakes negotiations where understanding others' true feelings can make the difference between success and failure. Chapter 7. The Psychology of Influence and Persuasion. The ability to influence and persuade others is one of the most powerful applications of social intelligence. Influence isn't about manipulation or coercion. It's about understanding how people make decisions and presenting your ideas in ways that resonate with their values, needs, and decision-making processes. When done ethically and skillfully, influence creates win-win situations where everyone benefits from the outcome. The psychology of influence is rooted in understanding how the human brain processes information and makes decisions. Contrary to what many people believe, we don't make decisions purely rationally. Instead, we make decisions emotionally and then justify them with logic. This means that effective influence requires appealing to both the emotional and rational aspects of decision-making. Robert Cialdini identified 6 key principles of influence that tap into fundamental human psychological tendencies. The first principle is reciprocity, which leverages our natural tendency to return favors. When someone does something for us, we feel psychologically obligated to reciprocate. This principle can be applied by providing value before asking for something in return, whether that's sharing useful information, offering assistance, or simply showing genuine interest in someone's well-being. The principle of commitment and consistency recognizes that people have a deep need to appear consistent with their previous statements and actions. Once someone makes a commitment, especially if it's public or written down, they're much more likely to follow through. This principle can be used by helping people articulate their own reasons for taking action rather than trying to convince them with your reasons. Social proof taps into our tendency to look to others for guidance on how to behave, especially in uncertain situations. We assume that if other people are doing something, it must be the right thing to do. This principle is particularly powerful when the other people are similar to us or are people we respect. Testimonials, case studies, and examples of similar people taking the desired action all leverage social proof. The authority principle recognizes that people tend to defer to perceived experts or authority figures. However, authority doesn't just come from titles or credentials. It can also come from expertise, experience, or even confidence in delivery. Building your authority involves demonstrating knowledge, sharing relevant experiences, and presenting yourself with confidence while remaining humble and approachable. Liking is perhaps the most obvious influence principle. People are more likely to be influenced by people they like. Liking can be built through finding common ground, giving genuine compliments, showing interest in others, and being physically attractive or similar to the other person. However, genuine liking is more powerful than superficial attempts to appear likable. Scarcity leverages our fear of missing out and our tendency to value things more when they're rare or difficult to obtain. This principle works because scarcity triggers loss aversion, one of the strongest psychological motivators. People are generally more motivated to avoid losing something than to gain something of equal value. Scarcity can involve limited time, limited quantity, or unique opportunities. Understanding cognitive biases is crucial for ethical influence. Confirmation bias leads people to seek information that confirms their existing beliefs while ignoring contradictory evidence. When trying to influence someone, frame your message in terms of their existing beliefs and values rather than challenging them directly. Anchoring bias means that people rely heavily on the first piece of information they receive about a topic. This makes first impressions and opening statements particularly important. The availability heuristic causes people to overestimate the likelihood of events that come to mind easily. If someone can easily recall examples of something happening, they'll perceive it as more likely or common than it actually is. This bias can be leveraged by sharing vivid stories or examples that make your point memorable and easily recalled. Framing effects demonstrate that how information is presented can dramatically affect how it's perceived and acted upon. The same information can be framed as a gain or a loss, as certain or uncertain, as affecting individuals or groups. Effective influencers understand how to frame their messages to maximize their persuasive impact while remaining truthful and ethical. Emotional triggers play a crucial role in influence and persuasion. Fear can be a powerful motivator, but it must be combined with a clear path to avoid the feared outcome. Hope and aspiration can motivate people toward positive futures. Anger can drive action against perceived injustices. Understanding which emotions are most relevant to your audience and situation allows you to craft more compelling messages. The timing of influence attempts can be just as important as the content. People are more receptive to influence when they're in good moods, when they're not distracted or stressed, and when they have mental energy available for processing new information. Understanding circadian rhythms, energy levels, and situational factors can help you choose the optimal time for important conversations. Building trust is foundational to all influence efforts. Trust is built through consistency between words and actions, transparency about motivations and limitations, competence in relevant areas, and genuine concern for others' welfare. Without trust, even the most sophisticated influence techniques will fail to create lasting change. The difference between influence and manipulation lies in the intent and outcome. Influence seeks to create mutually beneficial outcomes and respects the other person's autonomy to make their own decisions. Manipulation seeks to benefit the influencer at the expense of others and often involves deception or coercion. Ethical influence involves being transparent about your motivations and ensuring that others benefit from the actions you're encouraging. Active listening is one of the most powerful influence tools because it demonstrates respect and allows you to understand others' perspectives, needs, and concerns. When people feel heard and understood, they're much more open to considering your viewpoint. This involves asking thoughtful questions, reflecting back what you've heard, and showing genuine curiosity about others' experiences and perspectives. Storytelling is an incredibly powerful influence tool because stories engage multiple areas of the brain simultaneously and make abstract concepts concrete and memorable. When you tell a story, your audience doesn't just hear information, they experience it vicariously. This creates emotional engagement and makes your message more persuasive and memorable than dry facts or statistics alone. Chapter 8. Building instant rapport and trust. The ability to build rapport quickly is perhaps the most valuable social skill you can develop. Rapport is that magical feeling of connection and understanding that makes conversations flow effortlessly and creates the foundation for all meaningful relationships. When rapport is present, people feel comfortable, understood, and naturally inclined to cooperate. Without it, even simple interactions can feel forced and uncomfortable. Rapport happens at both conscious and unconscious levels. While we can consciously choose to be friendly and engaging, much of rapport building occurs through subtle, unconscious mirroring and matching behaviors that signal to others that we're similar to them and therefore safe to trust. Understanding these unconscious processes allows you to build rapport more quickly and naturally. The neuroscience of rapport involves mirror neurons, specialized brain cells that fire both when we perform an action and when we observe others performing the same action. These neurons create an automatic tendency to mimic others' expressions, postures, and movements. This unconscious mimicry creates a sense of connection and similarity that forms the foundation of rapport. When people are in rapport, you can literally see their mirror neurons at work as they unconsciously copy each other's behaviors. Physical mirroring is one of the most powerful rapport-building techniques. This involves subtly matching the other person's posture, gestures, and movements. If they lean forward, you gradually lean forward. If they cross their legs, you might cross yours a few moments later. The key is subtlety and authenticity. Obvious mirroring feels manipulative and creates the opposite effect. Natural mirroring should be delayed by a few seconds and should feel comfortable and genuine. Vocal matching involves adjusting your speaking pace, volume, and tone to complement the other person's communication style. If someone speaks slowly and quietly, matching their pace and volume creates comfort and connection. If they're energetic and fast-paced, increasing your energy level helps build rapport. This doesn't mean perfectly mimicking their voice, but rather finding a complementary style that feels natural to both of you. Linguistic matching involves using similar language patterns, vocabulary, and communication styles. If someone uses technical language, incorporating appropriate technical terms shows that you speak their language. If they prefer casual conversation, formal language might create distance. Pay attention to whether someone is more visual. I see what you mean. Auditory. That sounds right. Or kinesthetic. I can grasp that concept. In their language patterns and match their preferred modality. Finding common ground is a conscious rapport-building strategy that involves discovering shared experiences, interests, values, or perspectives. People naturally feel more connected to those who are similar to them. This might involve shared educational backgrounds, hometown connections, mutual acquaintances, similar challenges, or common interests. The key is to find genuine connections rather than fabricating similarities that don't actually exist. Active listening is crucial for rapport building because it demonstrates genuine interest and respect for the other person. This involves giving your full attention, asking thoughtful questions, and reflecting back what you've heard to show understanding. When people feel truly heard and understood, they naturally feel more connected to the listener. Active listening also provides valuable information about the other person's values, concerns, and communication style. Emotional matching involves recognizing and appropriately responding to the other person's emotional state. If someone is excited about something, showing enthusiasm helps build connection. If they're concerned about an issue, expressing understanding and empathy creates rapport. This doesn't mean taking on their emotions as your own, but rather acknowledging and validating their emotional experience. The principle of gradual escalation suggests that rapport builds progressively through increasingly personal sharing and connection. Initial interactions might focus on surface-level topics like weather or current events. As comfort increases, conversations can move to more personal topics like interests, experiences, and opinions. The key is to match the other person's level of openness rather than pushing for deeper connection too quickly. Cultural sensitivity is essential for rapport building across cultural boundaries. Different cultures have different norms around personal space, eye contact, physical touch, conversation topics, and relationship building. What builds rapport in one culture might create discomfort in another. Understanding and respecting these cultural differences while finding universal human connections is crucial for cross-cultural rapport building. Trust is the deeper foundation beneath rapport. While rapport can be built relatively quickly, trust develops over time through consistent actions that demonstrate reliability, competence, and genuine care for others' welfare. Trust involves believing that someone will act in your best interests, keep their commitments, and be honest in their communications. Without trust, rapport remains superficial and short-lived. Authenticity is crucial for sustainable rapport building. While techniques can help accelerate the natural rapport-building process, they must be grounded in genuine interest and respect for others. People have sophisticated social radar that can detect insincerity and manipulation. Authentic rapport building involves being genuinely curious about others, finding real common ground, and allowing your natural personality to shine through. Body language plays a crucial role in rapport building. Open postures with uncrossed arms and legs signal approachability and trustworthiness. Appropriate eye contact shows interest and confidence while respecting cultural norms. Smiling, when genuine, creates warmth and positive feelings. Leaning slightly forward shows engagement, while maintaining appropriate personal space respects boundaries. The pace of rapport building varies significantly across individuals and cultures. Some people naturally warm up quickly and feel comfortable sharing personal information early in relationships. Others prefer a slower, more gradual approach to building connection. Paying attention to social cues and adjusting your approach accordingly is essential for successful rapport building. Overcoming rapport blocks requires understanding what prevents connection from forming. Common blocks include perceived status differences, conflicting values, past negative experiences, cultural misunderstandings, or simple personality differences. Addressing these blocks might involve acknowledging differences while finding common ground, demonstrating respect for different perspectives, or simply giving relationships more time to develop naturally. Maintaining rapport over time requires ongoing attention and effort. This involves remembering important details about people's lives, following up on previous conversations, showing continued interest in their welfare, and being consistent in your interactions. Long-term rapport is built through reliability, mutual support, and shared positive experiences over time. The business applications of rapport building are enormous. Sales professionals, managers, negotiators, and anyone in client-facing roles benefit tremendously from strong rapport-building skills. However, the techniques must be applied ethically and authentically. The goal should always be to create genuine connections that benefit all parties involved, not to manipulate others for personal gain. Chapter 9. Navigating difficult conversations and conflicts. Difficult conversations are an inevitable part of human interaction, yet most people approach them with anxiety, avoidance, or aggression. The ability to navigate challenging discussions skillfully is a hallmark of high social intelligence. These conversations often involve strong emotions, conflicting perspectives, and high stakes, making them particularly challenging but also particularly important for relationship building and problem solving. The first step in navigating difficult conversations is understanding why they're so challenging. Our brains are wired to perceive conflict as a threat, triggering our fight or flight response. This evolutionary programming helped our ancestors survive physical dangers, but it can work against us in modern social situations. When we perceive a conversation as threatening, our amygdala hijacks our rational thinking, making it difficult to communicate effectively or find mutually beneficial solutions. Preparation is crucial for difficult conversations. This involves clarifying your objectives, understanding your own emotional triggers, and anticipating the other person's perspective and potential reactions. What specific outcome do you want to achieve? What emotions might arise during the conversation? What fears or concerns might the other person have? Thinking through these questions beforehand helps you approach the conversation more strategically and calmly. Creating psychological safety is essential for productive, difficult conversations. People need to feel safe before they can engage in honest, vulnerable communication. This involves choosing an appropriate time and place, ensuring privacy, and beginning the conversation in a way that reduces defensiveness. Starting with something positive or expressing genuine care for the relationship can help create a safer emotional environment. The language you use in difficult conversations can either escalate or de-escalate tension. I statements focus on your own experience and feelings, rather than making accusations about the other person's character or motivations. Instead of saying, "You always interrupt me," try, "I feel frustrated when I'm interrupted because I don't feel heard." This approach reduces defensiveness and creates space for dialogue rather than argument. Active listening becomes even more crucial during difficult conversations. When emotions are high, people need to feel heard and understood before they can consider alternative perspectives. This involves giving your full attention, asking clarifying questions, and reflecting back what you've heard. Sometimes, simply feeling heard can resolve much of the tension in a difficult conversation. Managing your own emotions during challenging discussions requires both self-awareness and self-regulation skills. Notice when you're becoming defensive, angry, or overwhelmed. Techniques like deep breathing, taking breaks, or internally reframing the situation can help you stay centered. Remember that you can't control the other person's emotions, but you can control your own responses. Understanding different conflict styles helps you adapt your approach to different people and situations. Some people are naturally competitive and prefer direct confrontation. Others are accommodating and tend to give in to avoid conflict. Some people withdraw and avoid difficult conversations altogether, while others seek compromise or collaboration. Recognizing these different styles and adapting your approach accordingly can improve your effectiveness significantly. The concept of getting to yes involves moving beyond positional bargaining to interest-based problem-solving. Instead of focusing on what each person wants, explore why they want it. What underlying needs, fears, or values are driving their position? Often, conflicts that seem intractable at the surface level can be resolved when you understand and address the underlying interests. Emotional validation is a powerful tool for difficult conversations. This doesn't mean agreeing with everything the other person says, but rather acknowledging their emotions and perspective. Statements like, "I can see this is really important to you," or "I understand why you might feel that way," can help the other person feel heard and reduce their defensiveness. Finding common ground early in difficult conversations helps establish a foundation for collaboration. Even in highly contentious situations, there are usually some areas of agreement. This might be shared values, common goals, or mutual respect for each other as people. Identifying and explicitly acknowledging these areas of agreement can shift the conversation from adversarial to collaborative. The timing of difficult conversations can significantly impact their outcomes. Avoid having important discussions when either party is tired, stressed, or emotionally activated by other events. Choose times when both people have the mental and emotional energy to engage constructively. Sometimes it's better to acknowledge that a conversation needs to happen but schedule it for a better time. Cultural considerations can complicate difficult conversations, especially in diverse workplaces or communities. Different cultures have different norms around conflict, hierarchy, directness, and emotional expression. What feels like healthy assertiveness in one culture might seem aggressive in another. Understanding and respecting these cultural differences while still addressing important issues requires cultural sensitivity and adaptability. Power dynamics add another layer of complexity to difficult conversations. When there are significant differences in authority, status, or resources, these dynamics can prevent honest communication. The person with more power may need to work extra hard to create safety and encourage honest feedback, while the person with less power may need to find skillful ways to raise important issues without jeopardizing their position. De-escalation techniques become crucial when conversations become heated or unproductive. This might involve taking a break, acknowledging emotions, finding something to agree on, or refocusing on shared goals. Sometimes humor can diffuse tension, but it must be used carefully to avoid minimizing legitimate concerns. Following up after difficult conversations is often overlooked but crucial for lasting resolution. This involves checking in to see how the other person is feeling, ensuring that agreements are being implemented, and addressing any lingering concerns. Sometimes The most important part of a difficult conversation happens after the formal discussion has ended. Learning from difficult conversations helps you improve your skills over time. After challenging discussions, reflect on what went well and what could be improved. What triggered your emotional reactions? How effectively did you listen? Did you achieve your objectives while maintaining the relationship? This reflection helps you develop greater skill and confidence for future challenging situations. The goal of difficult conversations shouldn't be to win or prove you're right, but to solve problems, strengthen relationships, and create understanding. When approached skillfully, even the most challenging conversations can deepen trust and improve relationships. The key is maintaining focus on mutual benefit while staying true to your own needs and values. Chapter 10. Advanced. Social dynamics in groups and organizations. Understanding group dynamics is essential for anyone who wants to influence outcomes in team settings, organizational contexts, or social gatherings. Groups operate according to complex psychological principles that can either amplify individual intelligence and creativity or lead to dysfunction and poor decision-making. Mastering these dynamics allows you to position yourself effectively within groups while helping them achieve better outcomes. Every group has both formal and informal structures. The formal structure includes official roles, reporting relationships, and stated procedures. The informal structure consists of unwritten rules, influence networks, and social hierarchies that often have more impact on actual behavior than formal structures. Understanding both structures is crucial for navigating groups effectively. Group formation follows predictable stages that psychologist Bruce Tuckman identified as forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. During the forming stage, people are polite and tentative as they figure out the group's purpose and their role within it. The storming stage involves conflict as different personalities and working styles clash. Norming occurs when the group establishes agreed-upon ways of working together. Performing happens when the group functions smoothly and productively. Adjourning involves the completion or dissolution of the group. Understanding which stage a group is in helps you respond appropriately. During forming, focus on building relationships and clarifying expectations. During storming, help facilitate constructive conflict resolution rather than avoiding necessary disagreements. During norming, contribute to establishing positive group norms. During performing, focus on task accomplishment and maintaining group effectiveness. Social roles emerge naturally in groups, regardless of formal titles or positions. The task leader focuses on getting work done and achieving objectives. The social-emotional leader maintains group harmony and manages interpersonal dynamics. The devil's advocate challenges ideas and prevents groupthink. The harmonizer smooths over conflicts and builds consensus. The energizer motivates and enthusiasms others. Understanding and flexibly adopting appropriate roles as needed is a key social intelligence skill. Power dynamics in groups are complex and multifaceted. Formal authority comes from official positions and titles. Expert power comes from knowledge and competence. Referent power comes from being liked and respected. Information power comes from having access to important information. Connection power comes from relationships with influential people. Understanding these different types of power helps you build your own influence while recognizing and appropriately responding to others' power bases. Coalition building is a crucial skill for achieving objectives in group settings. This involves identifying potential allies, understanding their interests and concerns, and finding ways to create mutually beneficial alliances. Effective coalition building requires understanding the political landscape of the group and building relationships before you need them. The most successful people in organizations are often those who excel at building and maintaining strategic coalitions. Group decision-making can be superior to individual decision-making when managed effectively, but it can also lead to poor outcomes when dysfunction sets in. Groupthink occurs when the desire for harmony overrides critical thinking, leading to poor decisions. Polarization happens when group discussion pushes opinions toward extremes rather than toward balanced solutions. Understanding these pitfalls helps you facilitate better group decision-making processes. Effective meeting facilitation is a crucial organizational skill that involves managing both task and process dimensions. Task facilitation includes setting clear objectives, managing time, keeping discussions focused, and ensuring decisions are made and recorded. Process facilitation involves managing group dynamics, ensuring everyone has a voice, managing conflicts constructively, and maintaining group energy and engagement. Communication patterns in groups significantly impact their effectiveness. In centralized communication networks, information flows through a central hub, which can be efficient but creates bottlenecks and reduces participation. In decentralized networks, information flows more freely among all members, which can increase creativity and engagement but may reduce efficiency. Understanding and optimizing communication patterns is crucial for group effectiveness. Psychological safety, as defined by Harvard Business School professor Amy Edmondson, is the belief that team members can speak up, make mistakes, and express concerns without fear of negative consequences. Teams with high psychological safety perform better, learn faster, and innovate more effectively. Building psychological safety requires leaders who model vulnerability, ask for feedback, and respond constructively to mistakes and dissent. Cultural diversity in groups creates both opportunities and challenges. Diverse groups often make better decisions and are more creative because they bring different perspectives and experiences. However, diversity can also create communication challenges and interpersonal conflicts. Managing diverse groups effectively requires cultural sensitivity, inclusive leadership practices, and intentional relationship building across cultural boundaries. Virtual teams and remote collaboration introduce additional complexities to group dynamics. The absence of nonverbal cues, the challenges of building relationships through screens, and the coordination difficulties across time zones all require adaptive social intelligence skills. Successful virtual team members must be more intentional about communication, relationship building, and coordination than their face-to-face counterparts. Organizational politics is often viewed negatively, but it's simply the reality of how decisions get made and resources get allocated in complex organizations. Effective political behavior involves understanding stakeholder interests, building coalitions, timing initiatives strategically, and communicating persuasively. The key is engaging in politics ethically and constructively rather than manipulatively or destructively. Change management requires sophisticated understanding of group dynamics because organizations are essentially large, complex social systems. People resist change for psychological reasons, including loss aversion, uncertainty avoidance, and threats to identity and status. Successful change leaders understand these dynamics and design change processes that address psychological as well as logical factors. Networking within organizations involves building relationships across hierarchical levels, functional areas, and geographical locations. Effective organizational networkers understand that relationship building is an ongoing process, not something you do only when you need something. They provide value to others before asking for help, maintain relationships even when there's no immediate benefit, and understand that strong networks are built on mutual trust and reciprocity. Chapter 11. Mastering High-Stakes Social Situations. High-stakes social situations test the limits of our social intelligence and can make or break careers, relationships, and opportunities. Whether you're giving a presentation to senior executives, attending a networking event where your next job opportunity might emerge, or navigating a tense family gathering, these situations require all of your social skills working in perfect harmony. The pressure, visibility, and consequences of high-stakes interactions can either paralyze us or reveal our true social mastery. The first characteristic of high-stakes social situations is elevated emotional intensity. When the stakes are high, emotions run stronger in everyone involved. Anxiety, excitement, fear, and anticipation create a charged atmosphere that can cloud judgment and trigger defensive reactions. Understanding and managing this emotional intensity, both in yourself and others, becomes crucial for successful navigation. Preparation for high-stakes situations extends far beyond knowing your content or agenda. It involves understanding the social ecosystem you're entering. Who will be present, and what are their roles, interests, and potential concerns? What are the unspoken rules and expectations of this particular context? What outcomes are different stakeholders hoping to achieve? This social intelligence reconnaissance allows you to enter the situation with strategic awareness rather than hoping for the best. The power of first impressions becomes magnified in high-stakes situations. Research shows that people form judgments about competence, trustworthiness, and likability within seconds of meeting someone. And these first impressions are remarkably resistant to change. In high-stakes contexts, where people may be evaluating you for significant opportunities or responsibilities, mastering the elements of powerful first impressions becomes essential. Your physical presence communicates volumes before you say a word. Confident posture, appropriate dress, firm handshakes, and direct eye contact all contribute to perceptions of competence and authority. However, confidence must be balanced with approachability. Coming across as arrogant or intimidating can be just as damaging as appearing weak or uncertain. The goal is to project calm confidence and genuine interest in others. Strategic conversation management in high-stakes situations requires understanding both the explicit agenda and the hidden dynamics at play. Surface-level conversations about business metrics or project updates often mask deeper concerns about power, recognition, resources, or relationships. Skilled social navigators listen for what's not being said and address underlying concerns while still advancing their explicit objectives. The art of strategic questioning becomes particularly important in high-stakes situations. The right question at the right time can unlock understanding, build alliances, and redirect conversations in productive directions. Powerful questions demonstrate thoughtfulness, show respect for others' expertise, and can help uncover the real issues that need to be addressed. However, timing and context are crucial. Challenging questions must be framed carefully to avoid triggering defensiveness. Reading the room is a critical skill that involves constantly monitoring the emotional and social temperature of the group. Are people engaged or distracted? Is tension building or decreasing? Who has influence, and how are power dynamics shifting? This ongoing social awareness allows you to adjust your approach in real time, knowing when to push forward, when to pull back, and when to shift tactics entirely. Managing your own emotional state under pressure requires both preparation and in-the-moment techniques. Visualization exercises before high-stakes situations can help you mentally rehearse successful outcomes and prepare for potential challenges. During the situation, techniques like controlled breathing, positive self-talk, and focusing on your purpose rather than your fears can help maintain composure and clarity. The concept of emotional contagion becomes particularly relevant in high-stakes situations. Your emotional state doesn't just affect you, it influences everyone around you. If you project calm, confidence, others are likely to feel more relaxed and positive. If you radiate anxiety or aggression, you'll trigger similar responses in others. Understanding this dynamic allows you to use your emotional state strategically to influence the overall atmosphere. Building coalitions on the fly often becomes necessary in high-stakes group situations. This might involve identifying potential allies, finding common ground quickly, and creating informal agreements that support your objectives. The key is being genuinely collaborative rather than manipulative, focusing on creating value for others while advancing your own interests. Crisis management skills become essential when high-stakes situations go wrong. Maybe your technology fails during an important presentation, or an unexpected conflict erupts during a crucial meeting. How you handle these moments of crisis often matters more than your performance during smooth sailing. Maintaining composure, thinking quickly, and finding creative solutions under pressure demonstrates the kind of leadership that people remember and value. The follow-up phase after high-stakes situations is often as important as the event itself. This involves reinforcing positive impressions, addressing any concerns that may have arisen, and building on the connections you've made. Many opportunities are won or lost in the days and weeks following the main event, based on how well you manage the follow-up process. Cultural intelligence becomes amplified in high-stakes international or multicultural contexts. Understanding different cultural norms around hierarchy, communication styles, decision-making processes, and relationship building can mean the difference between success and failure. What's considered confident in one culture might be seen as arrogant in another, and what's appropriately respectful in one context might appear weak in another. Performance under observation is a unique challenge of high-stakes situations. Knowing that important people are watching and evaluating your performance can create self-consciousness that interferes with natural social flow. The key is shifting focus from how you're being perceived to how you can create value for others. This external focus reduces self-consciousness and allows your natural social intelligence to emerge. Stakes management involves understanding what's really at risk and what's truly important. Sometimes we create unnecessary pressure by imagining catastrophic consequences for situations that are actually recoverable learning experiences. Other times, we underestimate the true significance of an opportunity. Accurate stakes assessment allows you to bring appropriate energy and preparation without being paralyzed by pressure or complacent about important opportunities. Chapter 12. The Art of Social Leadership and Influence. Social leadership transcends formal authority and titles. It's the ability to inspire, guide, and influence others through the power of relationships, vision, and authentic connection. While traditional leadership often relies on position and control, Social leadership is built on trust, emotional intelligence, and the ability to bring out the best in others. In our interconnected world, social leadership skills have become more valuable than ever. The foundation of social leadership is authentic influence, which differs fundamentally from manipulation or coercion. Authentic influence is based on genuine care for others' welfare, transparent communication about motivations and intentions, and the creation of mutual benefit. People can sense when someone is trying to manipulate them versus when someone genuinely wants to help them succeed. This authenticity forms the bedrock of sustainable leadership influence. Emotional intelligence amplifies every other leadership skill. Leaders with high emotional intelligence can read the emotional climate of their teams, understand what motivates different individuals, and respond appropriately to emotional needs. They recognize that logic alone rarely drives behavior. People need to feel understood, valued, and inspired before they'll commit their best efforts to any cause. Vision communication is perhaps the most crucial social leadership skill. People don't just follow leaders. They follow compelling visions of the future that resonate with their own values and aspirations. Effective social leaders can paint pictures of possibilities that excite and inspire others to take action. This isn't about manipulation. It's about connecting people's individual motivations with collective purposes that benefit everyone. The art of storytelling becomes essential for social leadership. Stories engage emotions, make abstract concepts concrete, and help people see themselves in the narrative. When leaders share stories about overcoming challenges, achieving breakthroughs, or serving others, they create emotional connections that facts and figures alone cannot achieve. Personal vulnerability in storytelling, when appropriate, builds trust and relatability. Building psychological safety is crucial for effective social leadership. Team members need to feel safe to speak up, ask questions, admit mistakes, and suggest improvements without fear of negative consequences. Leaders create psychological safety through their own behavior, demonstrating vulnerability, asking for feedback, and responding constructively to dissent and failure. This safety unleashes creativity, innovation, and engagement. Adaptive leadership skills allow social leaders to be effective across different situations, cultures, and personality types. This involves understanding that different people are motivated by different things and require different communication styles. Some team members need detailed instructions and frequent check-ins, while others thrive with autonomy and general guidance. Effective social leaders adjust their approach based on individual needs while maintaining consistency in values and expectations. The power of recognition and appreciation is often underestimated in leadership. People have deep psychological needs to feel valued and appreciated for their contributions. Social leaders understand that recognition isn't just about formal awards or bonuses. It's about seeing and acknowledging people's efforts, growth, and unique contributions. This recognition must be specific, timely, and genuine to have maximum impact. Conflict resolution becomes a crucial social leadership skill because conflicts are inevitable in any group dynamic. Rather than avoiding or suppressing conflicts, effective social leaders help transform conflicts into opportunities for growth, understanding, and stronger relationships. This involves helping people separate positions from interests, facilitating honest communication, and finding solutions that address underlying needs. Delegation is not just about task assignment. It's about developing others and building organizational capability. Effective social leaders understand that their success is measured not by what they accomplish personally, but by what they enable others to achieve. This requires letting go of control, providing appropriate support and resources, and creating clear accountability structures while allowing others the autonomy to succeed. The concept of servant leadership emphasizes that the leader's primary role is to serve others rather than to be served. This doesn't mean being weak or permissive. It means focusing on removing obstacles, providing resources, and creating conditions where others can thrive. Servant leaders achieve results through others' success rather than through their own individual heroics. Inclusive leadership has become increasingly important in diverse organizations and communities. This involves creating environments where people from different backgrounds, perspectives, and experiences feel valued and can contribute their best work. Inclusive leaders actively seek out diverse viewpoints, challenge their own biases, and ensure that decision-making processes incorporate multiple perspectives. Change leadership requires special social intelligence skills because change naturally triggers resistance and anxiety. People resist change not just for logical reasons, but for deep psychological ones, including loss aversion, uncertainty avoidance, and threats to identity and status. Effective change leaders address these emotional aspects of change while maintaining focus on necessary business or organizational objectives. Building and maintaining trust over time requires consistency between words and actions, transparency about decisions and motivations, and demonstrated competence in relevant areas. Trust is built through countless small interactions over time, but it can be destroyed quickly through single acts of betrayal or incompetence. Social leaders understand that trust is their most valuable asset and protect it accordingly. Feedback skills become essential for social leadership because people need information about their performance to grow and improve. However, delivering feedback in ways that motivate rather than demoralize requires sophisticated social intelligence. This involves timing feedback appropriately, focusing on behaviors rather than personality, providing specific examples, and combining constructive criticism with recognition of strengths and potential. Network leadership involves building and maintaining relationships across organizational boundaries, industries, and geographic regions. In our interconnected world, leaders often need to influence people over whom they have no formal authority. This requires building relationships based on mutual value creation, shared interests, and genuine care for others' success. The digital age has created new challenges and opportunities for social leadership. Leading virtual teams, communicating through digital channels, and building relationships without face-to-face interaction all require adapted social intelligence skills. Digital leaders must be more intentional about relationship building, clearer in their communication, and more creative in creating connection and engagement through technology. Chapter 13. Decoding Hidden Agendas and Unspoken Motivations. Every human interaction contains multiple layers of meaning. While people say one thing on the surface, they often have deeper motivations, hidden concerns, and unspoken agendas driving their behavior. The ability to decode these hidden dynamics is one of the most sophisticated aspects of social intelligence, allowing you to understand what's really happening in social situations and respond more effectively to people's true needs and motivations. Understanding the difference between stated positions and underlying interests is fundamental to decoding hidden agendas. A position is what someone says they want, while interests are the deeper needs, fears, or values driving that position. For example, someone might oppose a proposed change in work procedures, stating that it's too complicated or unnecessary. However, their underlying interest might be fear of appearing incompetent with new systems, concern about increased workload, or worry about losing status or relevance. Psychological needs drive much of human behavior, often below the level of conscious awareness. The need for autonomy makes people resist being controlled or micromanaged. The need for competence drives people to seek challenges where they can demonstrate their abilities. The need for connection motivates people to build relationships and belong to groups. The need for significance pushes people to feel important and valued. Understanding which needs are most important to different individuals helps you decode their motivations and respond appropriately. Fear is one of the most powerful hidden motivators in human behavior. Fear of failure, rejection, embarrassment, loss of control, or change can drive people to act in ways that seem irrational or counterproductive. Someone who constantly questions new initiatives might be motivated by fear of failure rather than genuine concerns about the proposals. Someone who dominates conversations might be driven by fear of being ignored or overlooked rather than genuine arrogance. Power dynamics create complex hidden agendas in most social situations. People may have unstated concerns about gaining, losing, or maintaining power, status, or influence. Someone might support or oppose an idea not based on its merits, but on how it affects their relative position within a group or organization. Understanding these power dynamics helps you interpret behavior more accurately and find ways to address underlying concerns. Historical context often explains current behavior that might otherwise seem mysterious. Past conflicts, disappointments, or betrayals can create hidden sensitivities and motivations that influence present interactions. Someone who seems unreasonably resistant to collaboration might have had negative experiences with previous team efforts. Understanding this history helps you approach them more skillfully. Emotional states create filters that influence how people interpret situations and what they're really concerned about. Someone who's stressed about personal issues might be more sensitive to criticism or more pessimistic about new proposals. Someone who's excited about a recent success might be more open to taking risks or trying new approaches. Reading these emotional states helps you understand the hidden emotional context affecting their decisions. Body language and micro-expressions often reveal what people are really thinking and feeling, even when their words suggest something different. Incongruence between verbal and nonverbal communication usually indicates internal conflict or hidden concerns. Someone might verbally agree with a proposal while their body language shows discomfort or skepticism. Learning to read these nonverbal cues helps you identify when there are hidden issues to address. Linguistic patterns can reveal hidden thoughts and motivations. The words people choose, the metaphors they use, and the topics they avoid all provide clues about their internal state. Someone who repeatedly uses war metaphors might see the situation as a battle. Someone who focuses on past problems might be motivated by fear of repeating mistakes. Paying attention to language patterns helps you understand people's mental models and motivations. Cultural backgrounds create different values, expectations, and communication styles that can lead to hidden cultural agendas. Someone from a hierarchical culture might be uncomfortable challenging authority directly, leading to indirect resistance or withdrawal. Someone from an individualistic culture might prioritize personal recognition over group harmony. Understanding these cultural influences helps you decode behavior that might otherwise seem confusing. Timing often reveals hidden motivations. When someone chooses to raise an issue, propose an idea, or express opposition can be just as revealing as what they say. Someone who waits until the last minute to raise concerns might be hoping to delay or derail a decision. Someone who brings up past successes when facing current challenges might be seeking reassurance or trying to establish credibility. The concept of secondary gains helps explain why people sometimes seem to sabotage their own stated objectives. A secondary gain is an unintended benefit that someone receives from a problem or negative situation. For example, someone who complains about being overworked might actually enjoy the status and indispensability that comes with being essential. Understanding secondary gains helps explain seemingly irrational behavior. Projection is a psychological defense mechanism where people attribute their own thoughts, feelings, or motivations to others. Someone who's feeling insecure might accuse others of being arrogant. Someone who's considering leaving an organization might become suspicious that others are job hunting. Recognizing projection helps you understand what people are really struggling with internally. Group dynamics create additional layers of hidden agendas as people position themselves within social hierarchies and coalitions. Someone might oppose an idea not because they disagree with it, but because it comes from someone they see as a rival. Someone might support a proposal to curry favor with influential group members. Understanding these group dynamics helps you navigate complex social situations more effectively. Values conflicts often create hidden resistance, even when people don't explicitly articulate their values-based concerns. Someone who values fairness might resist a decision they perceive as inequitable. Someone who values stability might oppose changes they see as unnecessary risks. Identifying and addressing these values, conflicts can resolve resistance that seems purely emotional or political. The key to decoding hidden agendas ethically is using this understanding to create better outcomes for everyone involved, not to manipulate or take advantage of others. When you understand someone's hidden concerns or motivations, you can address them directly and find solutions that meet their real needs while achieving your own objectives. This creates genuine win-win outcomes rather than zero-sum competitions. Chapter 14. Building lasting relationships and networks. The quality of your relationships largely determines the quality of your life and career success. Strong relationships provide emotional support, open doors to opportunities, offer resources during challenges, and create meaning and fulfillment that transcends individual achievement. However, building lasting relationships requires more than just meeting people. It requires understanding how relationships develop, what sustains them over time, and how to nurture connections authentically and strategically. Relationship development follows predictable stages, each requiring different skills and approaches. The initial contact stage is about making positive first impressions and establishing basic rapport. This involves showing genuine interest, finding common ground, and creating positive emotional associations. The key is being authentically interested in others rather than just trying to impress them with your own accomplishments or credentials. The building stage involves deepening connections through increased interaction, mutual value creation, and growing trust. This requires moving beyond surface-level interactions to more meaningful conversations about goals, challenges, values, and experiences. It also involves demonstrating reliability through keeping commitments, following through on promises, and being responsive to others' needs and requests. The maintenance stage is where many relationships falter because people assume that established relationships don't require ongoing attention and effort. However, relationships are living systems that require regular care and feeding to remain strong. This involves staying in touch consistently, remembering important details about people's lives, celebrating their successes, and offering support during difficulties. The concept of relationship banking involves making deposits into relationships before you need to make withdrawals. This means providing value, assistance, and support to others, without immediately expecting anything in return. When you consistently make deposits through helpful introductions, useful information, emotional support, or professional assistance, you build relationship capital that strengthens the connection over time. Reciprocity is a fundamental principle of human psychology that governs relationship development. People feel obligated to return favors and maintain balance in their relationships. However, effective relationship builders understand that reciprocity doesn't have to be immediate or identical. Someone might help you professionally while you support them personally, or they might assist you now while you help them years later. Vulnerability and authenticity deepen relationships by creating emotional bonds and trust. When you share appropriate challenges, mistakes, or uncertainties, you signal that you trust the other person and see them as more than just a professional contact. This vulnerability often encourages reciprocal sharing, creating deeper connection and understanding. However, vulnerability must be appropriate to the relationship level and cultural context. Different types of relationships serve different purposes and require different approaches. Mentoring relationships involve experienced individuals sharing wisdom and guidance with less experienced ones. Peer relationships provide mutual support, collaboration, and shared learning among equals. Sponsorship relationships involve influential people actively advocating for and opening doors for others. Understanding these different relationship types helps you develop your network strategically. Network diversity is crucial for both personal growth and professional success. This involves building relationships across different industries, functional areas, hierarchical levels, and demographic groups. Diverse networks expose you to different perspectives, opportunities, and resources that homogeneous networks cannot provide. They also make you more valuable to others because you can make connections between different worlds. The digital age has both expanded and complicated relationship building. Social media platforms allow you to stay connected with larger numbers of people across greater distances, but they can also create shallow connections that lack depth and meaning. Effective digital relationship builders use technology to facilitate deeper connections rather than replacing them, combining online interaction with face-to-face meetings whenever possible. Cultural sensitivity becomes crucial when building relationships across cultural boundaries. Different cultures have different norms around relationship building, including the pace of trust development, appropriate levels of personal sharing, business versus personal relationship mixing, and communication styles. Understanding and respecting these cultural differences while finding universal human connections is essential for global relationship building. Long-term relationship maintenance requires systems and habits that ensure you stay connected with important people in your life. This might involve regular check-in calls, birthday and holiday greetings, sharing relevant articles or opportunities, or organizing periodic gatherings. The key is making relationship maintenance a regular practice rather than something you only think about when you need something. Relationship repair skills become necessary when conflicts or misunderstandings damage important relationships. This involves taking responsibility for your role in problems, communicating directly about issues, finding ways to rebuild trust, and demonstrating changed behavior over time. Many valuable relationships can be salvaged and even strengthened through skillful conflict resolution and repair efforts. The concept of network effects suggests that the value of your network increases exponentially as it grows. because each new connection potentially connects you to their entire network. This makes relationship building a compound investment that becomes more valuable over time. However, this only works when your connections trust you enough to make introductions and recommendations on your behalf. Strategic networking involves being intentional about relationship building while maintaining authenticity and genuine care for others. This means identifying key relationships that could be mutually beneficial, finding natural ways to connect with those people, and focusing on providing value rather than just seeking benefits. Strategic doesn't mean manipulative. It means thoughtful and purposeful. Giving and receiving is a delicate balance in relationship building. While it's important to provide value to others, you must also be willing to accept help and support when offered. People often want to help others and feel good when their assistance is appreciated and utilized. Graciously receiving help strengthens relationships just as much as providing assistance does. Legacy thinking in relationship building involves considering the long-term impact of your relationships on both your own life and the lives of others. The strongest relationship builders think about how they can contribute to others' success and well-being over many years, not just immediate transactions. This long-term perspective creates relationships that last decades and provide value throughout your lifetime. Chapter 15. Putting it all together. Becoming socially unstoppable. After exploring the depths of social intelligence through 14 chapters, we now arrive at the most crucial phase: integration and mastery. True social intelligence isn't about mechanically applying techniques or manipulating others through psychological tricks. It's about developing an integrated way of being that combines deep understanding of human psychology with authentic care for others' welfare. This final chapter focuses on synthesizing everything you've learned into a coherent approach that makes you genuinely, socially unstoppable. The journey towards social mastery begins with self-awareness and authenticity. All the techniques in the world cannot compensate for a lack of genuine self-knowledge or authentic presence. You must first understand your own emotional patterns, triggers, strengths, and limitations. This self-awareness forms the foundation upon which all other social skills are built. When you know yourself deeply, you can interact with others from a place of centeredness rather than reactivity. Authenticity doesn't mean being unfiltered or inappropriate in all situations. Rather, it means being genuine in your care for others while adapting your communication style and approach to different contexts and relationships. Authentic social intelligence involves being true to your values and character while being flexible in your methods and presentations. The integration of multiple social intelligence skills creates synergistic effects that far exceed the sum of their parts. When you combine micro-expression reading with empathetic listening, add strategic questioning and emotional regulation, then overlay cultural sensitivity and relationship-building skills, you create a powerful, integrated capability that allows you to navigate virtually any social situation successfully. Developing social intelligence mastery requires deliberate practice over extended periods. Like any complex skill, social intelligence improves through conscious effort, feedback, and reflection. This means actively seeking out challenging social situations, paying attention to your performance, asking for feedback from trusted sources, and continuously refining your approach based on results. The mindset of continuous learning is essential for social intelligence mastery. Human behavior and social dynamics are endlessly complex and constantly evolving. Cultural changes, generational differences, technological developments, and global connections create new social challenges and opportunities regularly. Master-level social intelligence requires staying curious, observant, and adaptable throughout your lifetime. Emotional mastery forms the core of social intelligence because emotions drive behavior in both yourself and others. This involves not just managing your own emotions effectively, but understanding and appropriately responding to the emotional needs of others. Emotional mastery means being able to remain centered during conflicts, inspire others during difficult times, and create positive emotional climates that bring out the best in people. Systems thinking applies to social intelligence because people don't exist in isolation. They operate within complex networks of relationships, cultural contexts, and organizational structures. Understanding these larger systems allows you to influence outcomes at multiple levels and navigate complex social environments more effectively. This might involve understanding organizational politics, cultural dynamics, or industry relationship patterns. The ethical dimension of social intelligence cannot be overlooked. With great social power comes great responsibility. The skills you've learned can be used to manipulate and exploit others, or they can be used to create mutual benefit and positive outcomes for everyone involved. Ethical social intelligence involves using your skills to serve others' legitimate interests, while achieving your own goals through means that respect others' autonomy and welfare. Building social intelligence habits ensures that these skills become automatic rather than requiring conscious effort. This involves creating regular practices that reinforce social awareness, empathy, and relationship building. It might include daily reflection on social interactions, regular practice of active listening, consistent follow-up with important relationships, or ongoing education about human psychology and social dynamics. The compound effect of social intelligence means that small improvements and consistent application create exponential results over time. Each positive interaction builds your reputation and relationships slightly. Each skillfully handled conflict strengthens your credibility. Each act of genuine service to others increases their willingness to support you. Over years and decades, these small actions compound into significant social capital and influence. Adapting to different contexts while maintaining core principles is a hallmark of advanced social intelligence. This involves understanding that different situations require different approaches while staying true to fundamental values of respect, authenticity, and mutual benefit. A skilled social intelligence practitioner can be equally effective in boardrooms and community centers, formal negotiations and casual conversations, cross-cultural interactions and familiar relationships. The ripple effect of exceptional social intelligence extends far beyond your immediate interactions. When you consistently demonstrate high-level social skills, you model these behaviors for others, potentially improving their social intelligence as well. You create positive social environments that benefit everyone involved. You solve problems and resolve conflicts in ways that strengthen rather than damage relationships. Measuring progress in social intelligence requires both objective indicators and subjective feedback. Objective measures might include relationship quality, network size and diversity, conflict resolution success, influence and persuasion effectiveness, and achievement of social objectives. Subjective measures include your own comfort and confidence in social situations, the quality of your relationships, and feedback from others about your social impact. Creating your personal social intelligence development plan involves assessing your current strengths and areas for improvement, setting specific development goals, identifying practice opportunities, and establishing feedback mechanisms. This plan should be tailored to your personality, life situation, and objectives, while incorporating the key principles and techniques covered throughout this journey. The ultimate goal of social intelligence is not social manipulation or personal advantage at others' expense. It's about creating a life filled with meaningful relationships, positive impact, and mutual success. When you master social intelligence ethically and authentically, you become someone others are naturally drawn to, someone who creates value wherever you go, and someone who leaves every interaction and relationship better than you found it. Remember that becoming socially unstoppable is not about perfection or never making social mistakes. It's about developing the awareness, skills, and mindset to navigate social challenges effectively. Learn from mistakes quickly and continuously improve your ability to connect with and influence others in positive ways. The journey of social intelligence mastery is lifelong, but the rewards in relationships, opportunities, and personal fulfillment are immeasurable. As you continue to develop and apply these skills, remember that true social intelligence serves not just your own interests, but the interests of everyone you encounter. Use these powers wisely, ethically, and with genuine care for others' welfare. In doing so, you'll not only become socially unstoppable, but you'll contribute to creating a more connected, understanding, and collaborative world for everyone.